you finally made it. Come on in. I have something to show you. Yeah, I heard about that too. It's like, why not just hire more clowns, right? Anyways, I reckon you're someone who is an artist or really likes to make art as much as I do. So here's something that I've recently made this year, and I think it looks pretty cool. What do you think? Could be better. Well, listen. I think it'd be cool if I just told you the process of making this piece. Would you want to hear about it? You would? Great. Let me just take this upstairs and get you a cup of juice. There you go. All right. Come with me. Let's get started. Hello, you worms. Welcome to my house. Now, I invited you here because I wanted to show you step by step the process of how I came to this finished piece. And this piece is just an illustration that is based off of the current insane storyline of one of my favorite wrestlers named Christian Cage. And his whole deal is he wants to just keep adopting losers, no matter what age, and make them into a better version of themselves. And he just wants to add more numbers to his growing faction that he calls the patriarchy. Crazy. I feel like his whole faction or his group feels like a cult. It feels very cult-like because whenever people join it, they become completely different than who they used to be. And I'm obsessed with that. So I thought it'd be really cool to try and create my own poster that will invite you to join the cult of Christian Cage, become the child of Christian Cage, and become a better version of yourself. So let's get into that. So I really wanted to attempt to make a piece that was inspired by the style of the one, the only, the man, Bob Peak. You know I'm obsessed with this guy's work. There's just something about it that feels so raw and real, and I just feel like Bob Peak's work he's one of those artists that I think will just follow me for the rest of my life, and I don't mind it at all. So what we have here is me just trying to figure out what I wanted this piece to look like. I didn't start with any thumbnails, which is honestly bold of me, but sometimes you just gotta raw dog it if you're nasty. I also knew what I wanted, which was a giant portrait of Christian with his little cult dancing around him. And at first I thought I had the idea set with a classic bust, like a triangle cut bust, and the belt to his left. But I felt like this looked familiar in a way that I've done this before, and I sort of did, kind of. I don't know, I remember when I was working on this, I was thinking about this piece that I did for What We Do in the Shadows, and for some reason it just made me think of it too much. And now that I'm looking at it, it looks nothing like it. Like, the composition is not similar in any way, but I just have this thing about like repeating or repetition, and I don't want to repeat too many of the pieces that I've already done. I don't know. I feel that way about like my colors as well. I have this thing about changing it up a lot. But anyways, so I kind of scrapped that later on and went with something else. And I'm glad I did, though, because it just forced me to think outside of the box a little bit. So now that I've sort of figured out composition, I wanted to try and get Christian's face down, and this was a very difficult process because in some ways Christian Cage is easy to draw, but in many ways he is so hard to draw because I feel like this little sketch here, like this initial sketch, looks and feels so much like Christian Cage despite having like no features. But I knew that I had to eventually get into this piece more and draw a more refined image of Christian's face. So I went through many phases, and it was very, very difficult. And I don't think at this point I looked too much at Bob Peak's work. I think I was just using these 3 references on the left that I have here. So it was just kind of based off of my gut, I think. Like most of the drawings of Christian's face is just literally based off of what I've learned and the many times I drew him. But it not only didn't feel like Bob Peak-esque, it also just didn't feel like it looked like him. But I knew it was just time to move on. Because this is also just like a first draft. Like, this isn't the final look of it. So I knew that I would figure it out in the end. So as I'm working through the composition of this piece, I start to look at this beautiful poster of Cher on the left of my canvas. And I just love the flow of this piece and the little bodies posing around the giant Cher head. I just love it. I love that it's also quite simple. You don't see the other refs I have, but I had another like canvas full of references, but I really zeroed in on the Cher piece because sometimes you can get overwhelmed with too many references, and it's nice to just kind of pull back and just hard focus on one. And I also love the flow of Cher's hair that kind of encompasses them, but because Christian doesn't have long flowing locks anymore, I had to figure out what could be flowing around the little figurines. So that's how I decided on having them rest on his big lapels, because he's always wearing these jackets, these little fancy jackets. And it worked really well, actually. I like it a lot. Now the pieces start falling into place as I decide that I want the TNT belt to actually be on the right side of Cage. I want there to be space for text, which I quickly scribbled just to see if there would be enough room. So I'm pulling a lot of like inspiration from movie posters from the 1970s, seeing what the text looks like, seeing how they compose, their images or their text around their images. And that was really fun. I love doing text. Even if I'm really bad at it, I'm so bad at it, but it's so fun. And by this point, I absolutely love this sketch. I love the composition. I love the brush. I love how everything just looks. It all just came together so beautifully. And I think it came together this way because I was very easy on myself. Like I just kind of kept telling myself, you'll figure it out. And I did. So far, we're doing great. We're doing great, everybody. But now that I've figured out how I want this whole thing to look, it's time to actually get in there and start doing the line work. And you're probably like, oh, you're just working in the sketch again, Jay. No, I'm not. I'm working on the line art. This is how I do my line work. I get in there like I'm doing surgery on a grape, man. It's just a raw dogging it. You see, back in the day, I used to have a very strict process of how I approach my art. I used to do thumbnails, and then after that I do a sketch, and then I would color in the values of the sketch, and then over that I would work in a very crisp and clean line art layer. And that was my process for a long time, until I just had a point where I just realized I don't like working like this anymore. I hate having to do a thumbnail and then do a sketch based on a thumbnail and then color in that sketch like the values and then do a line art layer. And it was just too many steps for me. And I remember there was a point where I couldn't draw as much digitally because I had a job. A very exhausting job, and I drew a lot in my sketchbook. And I remember just starting to feel like the drawings in my sketchbook were looking better than the art I was making digitally. There was just this energy that I liked, and I started to slowly draw digitally as if I was drawing in my sketchbook, and that's what made my art turn into what it is now. So now my process is a lot less strict. I just draw whatever's on the canvas and clean as I go. And it can be a little tricky and a bit risky, but oddly enough, I find this way to be far less stressful and more ambitious, which feels a lot more similar to how I work traditionally. There's not a lot of room to second guess because you kind of just have to deal with what you have and work from there. And I just really like that process. So it was finally time to really lock in and finalize how I wanted Christian's face to look. But the results were looking pretty grim. I'm not really experienced in drawing older faces. I've committed the terrible sin of drawing nothing but twinks for most of my artistic career.
Yeah. I know some of these.
As I worked on his face, I lost some confidence on the way because I felt like the sketch just looked so much better in comparison to whatever the fuck I was doing. The eyes were a bit off and he just didn't really read as Cage. And at this point, I realized I needed some help. So I decided to go to Midjourney and generate an image of Christian Cage and Bob Peak's art together to psych, jokes, laughs, jests. I did not do that. Can you imagine? So with no exact reference that could help aid in creating this image I have in my head, with not even anyone else attempting to do this very specific idea that I have, what next? What was there to do? What could I do? How did I get from here to here? I just fucking kept drawing. I fucking kept drawing and I trusted myself that I could do it. And I also just looked at more references and I just trusted the process. Because I do this all the time and I know that if I just take a step back, I don't know, eat, jerk off, think a little bit, and then come back to it, that I can figure it out. And I did. Figured it out. I did the same thing with the cute little coat dancing around him. I looked at a lot of references and decided to just trust that I could achieve what I wanted, or at least close enough to what I wanted. I used the skill of my craft and imagination to just look at the references of the Bob Peak references I had and try my best to just see how I could approach it. Because that's what art is. That's what it's about. That's part of the process. And I am so grateful that I'm able to get to this point in art where I can just say, hey man, Jesus, take the wheel. You got this. You can do it. And because I love Christian's face. I love it so much. I really think I have captured the idea that was in my head as close as possible. Like, this is the closest I'm gonna get, I think, to like that Bob Peak style that I'm always drooling about. And that's what it's about, man. That's what it's all about. Like, getting it from your head and onto the canvas. You have no idea how important that is as an artist. It's so much more important than, I guess, making the most beautifulest image or perfect image. It's about getting that shit on the canvas and getting it done. With that being said, for the three people under him frolicking, dancing, what seems, because Luchasaurus, the dinosaur on the right, is not too happy about this situation. Drawing them was very easy for me. Lucha gave me a little bit of trouble because I wasn't sure what I wanted him to do. If you saw, I kind of like went between like him carrying luggage or him just carrying other stuff. I went with him carrying, I guess, presents, luggage, and wilting flowers. Because Lucha in this situation, he's pretty much become like the black sheep. He is not God's favorite child, like Nick Wayne all the way in the back is. He's suffering. So yeah, getting Lucha's face was a little hard because he's a dinosaur, but he has a mask on, so it's hard to figure out like this in between when I want to depict him more seriously. But yeah. Mama Wayne, who's in the middle, she's so happy. She was so fun, so easy to draw. I looked at a bunch of again, Bob Peak's work, specifically the poster for West Side Story, because I love the way he drew like the background characters. There's so much detail, yet it's like simplified. So I wanted to kind of capture that energy. But yeah, you could tell I had a lot of fun drawing Mother Wayne. She's just a blast. Now, as we get into Nick Wayne, it's like, I think I just directly drew Maria's pose from the West Side Story poster. I just love it so much. It looks whimsical and happy. And again, Nick Wayne is the favorite. He's the golden child. So he's gonna be the happiest of them all. So yeah, I had a lot of fun drawing him. I feel like it looks like him as well. Like, I think everyone kind of looks like themselves despite being like a tiny, very shrunken version. But I actually tried to make so I made this brush. I actually made a brush to to emulate like a pencil, some sort of pencil, like a hard pencil. But I wanted to make sure I would have been able to do like details. So I think as I was drawing this, I was tweaking my brush at the same time. So that was a bit of a headache, but I think it was worth it because the line work I feel like it looks a bit like pencil. So I'm pretty proud of myself there. So then when it came to the belt, which you'll see soon, the TNT belt is a very glamorous, gorgeous looking belt, to me at least. I feel like it's one of the prettiest belts of all of the belts in the show. But it has a lot of detail in it, because I think it has like rhinestones, I don't know, some kind of gem in it or whatever. But it's a very, very detailed belt, and I knew that this simplified version just wouldn't cut it for the style that I was going for. But you see the belt, it's very, very ornate, and I don't feel I have the skill to accomplish something like that. So how do I do it? You look at your fucking reference and you figure it out. That's what I did. And instead of painstakingly trying to copy every minute detail of the gems, I just scrabbled. Like, I literally scrabbled. If you look far away, it looks more detailed than it actually is. But if you look close, it's just scribbles. Genius I am. Now, before I get to coloring, I'm just refining Christian's face a little bit more, adding a few more things that I felt were missing, fixing things here and there, zip zap zoop, just to really make sure it's ready for the coloring. For the colors, I created a mini color guide because I had no idea what the fuck colors I wanted to use. So instead of overworking or belly aching over the color scheme, I nipped that in the bud by making a tiny color guide. You can see it right here. Yeah, it gives me something to work with, and I do this a lot when I really want a specific color scheme, but I don't know how exactly I want it to look. I feel like I reverted back to my peachy pink palette kind of look, which I'm kind of sick of at this point. Makes me want to yak. But I know her well, so I used it. So let's get to why I made this video in the first place, why I'm taking you through the journey, through the process, step by step. I'm doing this because I did not realize just how many artists lack the skill of finding and using references. I didn't even realize this was a skill until now. And this is not me being an ass or I'm the better artist because I can reference. And listen, I don't know the skill of drawing feet yet. I still can't draw feet, all right? We all have things we lack. But yeah, I just never realized that looking for references was a skill until I saw that even skilled artists who are seasoned go and generate references from Mid-Journey because they don't have the perfect image, I guess.
Please. No ignorance, no buffoonery.
You are artists. You are made to solve problems, guys. You trained for this. If you can't find the exact image you're looking for that'll help guide your art, make your own, or just fucking deal with what you've got and work from there. I don't understand why that's not a possibility for some people. You can do it. Trust yourself and trust the process. You don't need to overthink or overwork your art to the point where it's an incomprehensible mess, because the truth is you will never get the exact image in your head. and onto the canvas. You have to accept that. You have to accept that that's fine. And I know some of you may be thinking, okay, wise guy, why don't you show us the perfect way to make art? Since you know so much, oh great creator. And no, I'm not saying there's only one pure way to make art. But I just think that artists are becoming way too comfortable on relying on technology that honestly, seriously, is pretty fucking useless. You're telling me that you need to generate reference images. You can't just Google hair. You can't do that. You can't just look it up. That's what I did. I just gathered a shit ton of images and honestly ended up really referencing one or two of them. And there's people who make their living making reference images for you. And yet you spend money on fucking Mid-Journey? It's called Mid for a reason. I just don't understand why artists, especially very seasoned and skilled and experienced artists, are letting this tech turn our brains into rocks. All for what? So that we don't have to do an extra step because it's now become industry standard to churn out art in a few days? Have you ever considered that the industry is wrong? But let's reel it in from the AI because I can talk all day about this. I truly can. This really grinds my fucking gears. But here's a little fun fact about this piece, and I think a lot of people can relate. But I've had this idea of doing a poster in the style of a Bob Peak poster for a long time, like since 2017. And it was in relation to like other shows that I was into, but I just never did it. Part of me feels like it's because I forgot. I probably did just forget, but I also think it was because I was very insecure and I felt like that I just could never accomplish something like that. I felt like my skills were just not to that level and there was no point in trying at all. And I guess this time around, I just thought, I'm not gonna be on this planet forever. Well, I don't have the skills to do a lot of things. Instead of avoiding doing it or chickening out because I'm insecure and I don't think I'm gonna do a good job, why not accept that and be like, yeah, I'm gonna do a shitty job. Well, someone's gonna do it. It's gonna be me. And that's kind of why I did it. And yeah, it's not perfect, but I am so glad I did it because I learned a lot and I've drawn things I never thought I could draw. And that's what I want you guys to get from this video. I want you guys to let your mistakes and let your insecurities help you grow. Embrace that and let it take you to new heights. Let it take your art to places that you would never have thought of. Because as an artist, in order to become better overall, not just by skill, not just by drawing, but just overall, in order to become better, you have to embrace the uncertainty, the failures, the insecurities. When you don't embrace them and you shy away, I think that's what causes artists to do silly things like depend on AI and shit. If you're someone who has used AI or is using it for your artwork, like as a tool, I'm not saying you're a horrible person who should die, all right? But I'm telling you, stop it. Drop it right now. Trust me, do not take a bite of the devil's fruit because you're just gonna keep wanting more and more and it's gonna turn your brain into a rock. May I add again my shit attempt at drawing feet and shoes. I know I'm bad at it, but you think that fucking stops me? Look at these clunkers. Where are you going with those? Nowhere. But do you think that stops me? No, because I'm an artist. This is what I do. I do the damn thing. Embrace the bad, embrace the ugly, embrace the process of creating, because that is one of the most beautiful things that you can do as an artist. You have a worthy vision, and if that means some things are gonna look a little strange, a little wonky as you conjure that vision, then that's just the risk you gotta be willing to take as an artist. That's just how it works. Your work will never be perfect, and AI will not help you get closer to that perfection. The only person who is looking for any small mistake in your work is you. Take the weight off. reject the devil's temptation, and do the damn work. Trust the process. Trust yourself, because you are capable of so much more than you think you are. Hey, thanks for listening to all of that. I really hoped you enjoyed this. I hoped you enjoyed me talking about my art with you. Did you enjoy it? Sweet. Oh, don't forget, reject the devil's fruit, alright? Okay, get the fuck out of here. I have dinner. See you later. Bye. Alright, I hope you enjoyed something a little bit different. I'm unfortunately always doing something a little bit different. But with that being said, biggest specialist thank yous to my patrons Star, KMM, Finn, McMarthy, Fred by Dawn, Ragna, Khan, Lao Meg, Snooka Snurk, Bromivs, Lucette, Worthy Kids, Clown Snot, Scoen Stotus, Lunchworms, Sneeze, Renee, Melody, Isle of Lions, Example Text 88, Inga, Eep, Smart Alex, Stinky Poo Poo, Izzy Is, Greg, Clown Emojis, Grayson, Indy, Halo, Catherine, Cat, April, Kennedy B, Maria, Faith, Wizard Fancier, Kip, Al Green, L, The Gay Cousin, Art by Khan, Jasper Stark, Mochi, Pippi G, Tired, Eldritch, Chanel, Scout, Pidge, Fish, Audrey M, Expensiex, Grapefruit Soda Hibiscus, Shimoki, iPen, Marley's, Kendra, M7 and Do, and lovely sad HBH. Thank you so much for choosing to support me every month, or just this month if you're new. Thank you so much for your help. It truly means a lot. I say this every video and I always mean it. It means so much that you guys support me, because it means that I can be more free to do these fun videos for you guys. I'm currently busting it down for the face stylization tutorial. It's taking some time, but I'm really enjoying the process. Here's a little preview, a little sneak of that. There you go. Do enjoy. If you want to see more stuff that I'm working on, because I am working on other stuff like an animation, if you want to take a look at that, check out my Patreon. If you want to just see full resolution if you want to see full resolution of my work as well, or access to my entire itchio shop, yes, for just $7, do check out my Patreon. It's really fun in there. I have such a blast just like showing you guys things and reading your comments. And I also really like doing these monthly character polls. I try to do it monthly, but you basically just shoot a character at me and I spin a wheel. Whoever wins gets drawn, and this was one of the characters that won a few months ago. Emphasis on try to do these every month, but you know, things just get a little crazy. But yeah, I also stream the character polls, so check out my Twitch. Taco de Muerte. There you go. Bye. Sell. I'll see you in the next video. Thank you again. Bye.